Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I gotta say is, who that? What's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones, and yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Really do appreciate you, no matter where you are, wherever you may be in the world. Thank you for choosing the State of the Saints podcast for your listening or your viewing pleasure. On this edition, we're going to be talking about Saints wide receiver Chris Olave and putting the trade rumors to bed. And we're also going to be talking about Saints OTAs and some of the storylines that we are looking forward to. And by we, I mean you. Feel free to put your most intriguing storylines inside of the chat. We're an extremely interactive podcast. All you have to do is put your comments in the chat. I apologize once again. There was something that happened with my laptop. I tried to, that's what kind of took me so long. I was having issues when it comes to taking phone calls. I kept on getting like some weird like feedback type thing. So I apologize, but can't take any phone calls on this episode this time around. But I will be reading comments from the Who That Nation. I don't know what the heck happened. I don't know what it was. I normally like just kind of go through to make sure I can have a pretty steady show with no hiccups. And I'm like, man, what in the world was that? So I don't know. I gotta fix it. I'll figure it out and be ready for the next episode where we can actually open up the phone lines again. But I really do appreciate those that are filing into the chat right now, those that are listening. Anywhere, at work, at home, social media, wherever you're at. Appreciate it. Shouts out to Jerry, shouts out to Yella, shouts out to Super, shouts out to Charmaine, shouts out to Dalton, shouts out to B Creole, and shouts out to Brian, Steele, Spencer, Brian, Daniel, and Darrell, who I see in the chat so far. But let's go ahead and get into it, man. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Chris Olave. Chris Olave is the Saints' number one receiver. He came to the New Orleans Saints back in 2022, part of the 2022 draft. He was a first-round pick. We all know the story. The Saints used 2 first-round picks that year, one to get Chris Olave, the other for Trevor Penning. Chris Olave was the number one pick that, disrespect to Trevor Penning, but he was the one that deserved to be that number one pick. Chris Olave, for the first 2 seasons, went over 1,000 yards, was emerging as the Saints' top guy. Unfortunately, last year, he dealt with some issues pertaining to concussions. We know that Chris Olave was knocked out on the field versus the Carolina Panthers. That was a very, very scary scene. I was actually at that game. I seen it in real time. That was one of the most scariest things I've ever seen at a football game. I mean, there was a moment and a good minute or two, he wasn't moving. And that was really, really scary. It's good to see that Chris Olave is back and running and trying to get back on the field to be that top receiver that he believes that he can be. But there were some rumors. There were some rumors that were going around about the Saints possibly trading Chris Olave. As a matter of fact, a couple episodes ago, it could have probably been I don't say last episode, but it definitely was the episode before last, I believe, where someone was talking about Chris Olave possibly being traded and him being linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I said that I did indeed hear that the Pittsburgh Steelers inquired about Chris Olave, and sure enough, you look at some of the articles out there and it said that they inquired about Chris Olave, but your boy don't know what the hell he be talking about here on the show. He just be out here throwing stuff up and hoping that it stick. But there were some teams. There was the Steelers and the Browns that inquired about Chris Olave. See, when people say, oh, the Saints are thinking about trading Chris Olave, and people are like, oh man, that ain't true. Like, technically, yeah, it's not true. It's not, right? Because the Saints aren't looking to trade Chris Olave, but a trade rumor can start when a team just calls up the Saints and be like, hey, look, we know you got, I don't know, Alvin Kamara. Like, we would like to talk to you and negotiate a deal about trading Alvin Kamara. What you think about it? That still could be considered a trade rumor because that team inquired about Alvin Kamara. And that is what happened. So just because a team calls up the New Orleans Saints and the Saints like, hello, New Orleans Saints, well, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. That don't mean, like they are looking to try to trade this man. But they did inquire about him, talking to Pittsburgh Steelers, and so did the Browns. But the Saints do not want to trade Chris Olave, which would make absolutely no sense in the grand scheme of things. If the Saints were to trade Chris Olave, to me, that is the Saints conceding. Now, I know what I'm about to say may not make a lot of Saints fans feel bad, but it would be the Saints conceding and saying that we are definitely rebuilding, even though Saints fans, once again, wouldn't have a problem with that at all. Some people feel the Saints should have done this and had this conversation years ago, but I guess they don't want to make it so obvious. They like Chris Olave. They feel like Chris Olave is a top-tier receiver in the National Football League. They feel like he has what it takes to be one of the best of the best. Now, I like to consider this as a controversial topic. Depends on who I'm talking to, but I don't look at Chris Olave as a number one guy. I look at Chris Olave as a number one guy according to a depth chart. If we're playing Madden, Chris Olave's name is going to be at the top of the depth chart among wide receivers. His rating will be higher than all the other guys. That is the only way I look at Chris Olave at this time as a number one receiver. Doesn't mean that my opinion won't change if he goes out there and consistently goes and puts up big numbers. Hell, maybe it's just the fact that Derek Carr and Chris Olave were not on the same page. Maybe it was just the fact that him and, all these other quarterbacks just couldn't get it together. Maybe that could have maybe it's just as simple as that, because I can remember Chris Olave going off for 180 plus yards against the Carolina Panthers when Jameis Winston was a quarterback. And he probably would have had over 200 yards receiving if he didn't drop 2 passes in that game. So maybe it's just as simple as some better quarterback play, and everybody will see that Chris Olave is a number one guy. But as of right now, I don't see it. I look at the New Orleans Saints, if they were to draft another wide receiver next year, like one of these big time top tier wide receivers that's supposed to be coming out, and they make him that guy, I can see Chris Olave like fall into the back of the depth chart. And that young rookie wide receiver being their number one guy. That is what I see. And, I just want to see something from Chris Olave. I'm like, yes, he can get north of, 80 plus catches. Yes, he can get over 1,000 yards. But to me, that doesn't always mean that you're, a top tier number one receiver. Like that means that you're a number one receiver on the depth chart. You're probably the best receiver on your team, but you're not. When you think about Chris Olave at this point, you're not thinking about Jamar Chase. You're not thinking about Justin Jefferson. You're not thinking about, Tyreek Hill. Like, you're not thinking about like the upper echelon of wide receivers. You think of a solid wide receiver that, you're happy to have him on the team because he's better than most. But elite, top tier, nah. I don't see that at all. But if you were to lose Chris Olave, it would be a huge drop-off inside of that wide receiver room. No disrespect to Rashid Shaheed, talented guy, but he's not a better wide receiver overall than Chris Olave. Brandon Cooks, I look at him as the first Chris Olave, right? But at this stage, he's like 30, 31 years old, he can still run, he can still make plays, but he's not a number one guy at this stage. You make an argument that if he ever was a number one, right? I mean, maybe one year when he was in New England, he had a monster season with Tom Brady. But other than that, I mean, he pretty much bounced around the league. And there's a reason why he's bounced around the league. There's a reason why he has been in the league as long as he has. And this was the first time he had to test free agency because he got traded over and over again. Like, you don't trade top tier receivers like that, right? But, he's still talented. I still expect for him to make plays. Bub Memes is on the team, number one receiver. I mean, come on, good player. Think that he has a lot of talent, got a lot of upside, could be a good contributor, could be a difference maker if he can put it all together. But number one, no. So you don't want to lose Chris Olave because it would indicate that you're definitely phoning it in. But he's better than the rest. He's better than the rest. And that's one thing I would say about him. You don't want to lose somebody with that type of talent, especially when you don't have anybody else to be able to make up for it. Go ahead and read some of your comments. And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Yellow. Yellow says, makes zero sense to trade a young player like Chris when the whole point is to get younger. Yeah, it definitely doesn't make sense. I guess you can look at it maybe if the New Orleans Saints are looking at it from a contractual standpoint. Do you look at Chris Olave as a long-term commitment? If you look at next year's, 2026 NFL draft, let me see. Let me look at the 2026 NFL. I'm gonna take a look at it because I want to see who is actually available, who will be available to come out, who they feel would be there. Of course, like guys always want to go back to college and all that kind of stuff there. But, you got Carnell Tate from Ohio State. You got Eric Singleton Jr. From Auburn. You got Jordan Tyson at Arizona State. You got some other guys out here. Denzel Boston. I mean, you got some talented young wide receivers on this list right here, man. Of course, this list is subject to change because, guys, they decide that they want to declare for the draft. You got other players that probably want to, move on, to, maybe want to get into the draft, declare for the draft, might want to stay in college. So there's always different guys that are going to come out. There's always players that nobody's really paying that much attention to take that extra step. And, they can find themselves being a number first round, second round pick. So, TJ, thoughts on the Saints voted not to ban the Tush push? I don't have a problem with it, man. I don't have a problem with it at all. I'm glad that they didn't, ban the Tush push. The reason I feel this way is because the only reason why people are really going at this play is because it works. They say it's a competitive advantage, but it works. That's the only way I can put it. It's a play that works. And because it works and because it's so effective, people want to get rid of it because they can't stop it. Credit to the Philadelphia Eagles. You may not like them, but credit to the Philadelphia Eagles for putting together such a force of an offensive line that they have a play that you virtually can't stop. It's a combination of a really brute force type offensive line, and you got a quarterback. It definitely serves a purpose that the quarterback that is the one that is leaning forward can actually deadlift 500 pounds and squat about 600. You know what I'm saying? So you combine that together, it's a recipe for success. Hell, I mean, I hope that Kellen Moore brings the Tush push to New Orleans. I hope that they become such a force of an offensive line that they trying to ban this rule for the Saints not to be able to utilize it. But I guarantee if the Saints were the first team to be, y'all know where I'm going with this. If the Saints was the ones that were successful when it comes to the Tush push, I guarantee you it would be banned today. Because we know that any type of success that the Saints have, the NFL, for some apparent reason, tries to take it away. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, I'm glad that they didn't ban it. I'm glad that, it's still a play. It shouldn't even been on the marquee anyway, to be honest with you. What's good, T Jizzle? Man, how can I get some State of the Saints gear? Well, I mean, you can go on YouTube. There's some merchandise that you can actually purchase. Honestly, they're underneath like every episode. You can check out some of the merchandise that we have here on the State of the Saints podcast, man. Check it out. And if you like what you see, you can actually purchase some of it. Let's see. A few minutes ago, I don't know exactly what we're talking about here. Let's see. Breaking news. Colts owner Jim Irsay has passed away. Wow, Jim Irsay. Wow, that's definitely a shocker right there, man. Jim Irsay passing away. Let's see if we can actually pull that up, man. Well, let's see if we can actually see if. Yeah, I mean, it said Indianapolis Colts owner Jim Irsay dies at age 65. This is according to ESPN.com. I'll read a little bit of this. This is from Stephen Holder. Shouts out to Stephen, man. Met him at the Combine. Really nice guy. Says owner Jim Irsay, who led the team since 1997 and preceded over one of the most storied franchises ever, has died. He was 65. We are devastated to announce our beloved owner and CEO Jim Irsay passed away peacefully in his sleep this afternoon. Co-COO Pete Ward said in a statement released by the team, Jim dedication and passion for the Indianapolis Colts, in addition to his generosity, commitment to the community, and most importantly, his love for his family, was unsurpassed. Irsay is survived by his daughters, Charlie Irsay Gordon, Casey Fort, and Kaylin Jackson, his ex-wife, and his daughter's mother, Meg Coyle, and he also had 10 grandkids. So, man, hate to hear stuff like that. Jim Irsay passed away at the age of 65 years old in his sleep. There's a lot of history pertaining to the Colts. I mean, we all know about the Colts, historically known for moving out of Baltimore to Indianapolis in the middle of the night. Baltimore fans waking up to having no football team. These are, a lot of, man, that was like a very, very historical moment. Jim Irsay, owned the team. I believe his dad was the one that owned the team originally. He inherited the team, and he did a good job. As an owner, that you always looked at the Indianapolis Colts. They were always in contention. You never seen them really being bottom feeders. If they were always trying to find ways of becoming a better football team. We know that. During the 90s, I can remember growing up as a kid, watching the then quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, now head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, Jim Harbaugh. I can remember him being the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. They used to refer to him as Captain Comeback. And, I can remember like they were really, really close to beating the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC Championship game. It came down to a Hail Mary, and the wide receiver almost caught it, the one that Jim Harbaugh threw into the end zone. I can remember, Marshall Faulk, a New Orleans native. Shouts out to Carver Senior High School. Marshall Faulk being drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, a New Orleans native, another one, Peyton Manning, who basically built Lucas Oil Stadium. There's a reason why they call it the house that Peyton built, Lucas Oil Stadium, one of the nicest stadiums I ever been into. Indianapolis is a really great town, nice people. I've had opportunity to go there about 2 or 3 times with the combine. They always show a lot of, really shows this, a lot of courtesy. People are very generous. And Jim Irsay has built a really good football team. They've had some really good coaches, some really good players. And although they've, been kind of struggling over the last couple of years, you always had to believe that, the Indianapolis Colts can always be somewhere in contention. So rest in peace to Jim Irsay, one of the best owners in the National Football League, one of the best businessmen in the National Football League, and a guy that wasn't afraid to express himself and wasn't afraid to go against the grain. One of the most recent events was him hiring Jeff Saturday right off ESPN. So rest in peace to Jim Irsay, great football mind, great owner, and I guarantee you the Indianapolis Colts fans will indeed miss him as the owner of the team. Let's go ahead and stroll down a little bit. It says, but the phone lines will be open later tonight on Hoodie Jude channel at 9:30 p.m. Yeah, man, make sure y'all check out Hoodie Jude, man. Shouts out to Hoodie. Says, my woman gets mad when I watch your show. TV volume be up to the max. I tell her to shut the hell up and get you a Saints shirt. Well, I tell you what, Jerry, look, I appreciate you supporting the show, but please don't be sleeping on the couch because of your boy, all right? Shoot, for real, man. Look, I don't know how old you is, man, but sleeping on the couch, man, it mess with your back, all right? Like make sure that don't get kicked out, because of me, and then the next day, you coming on the show, man. TJ, man, I got into it with my wife because of you. Nah, man. Make sure that you compromise. Turn that TV down a little bit. Turn that TV down. That's what gets me. Why they keep targeting Saints players? Just because your players got traded to another team doesn't mean they come after the Saints players. That's because organizations are looking at the Saints as right now a team that's trying to figure it out, a team that's trying to rebuild, and that's the reason why they're going after them. So they probably just inquire because they're like, y'all ain't going nowhere anyway, so y'all might as well just try to take advantage of these picks that we're gonna try to give y'all. But I mean, teams are always trying to get better. That's the name of the game. I mean, that's the business part of the NFL that I always allude to on this show. It's about trying to find ways to make your team better, rather it's through the draft, rather it's through free agency, rather it's via trades. So they know Chris Olave is a good player. They know that the New Orleans Saints are pretty much in a rebuild mode right now. So they probably just made a call to try to inquire about it based on what they see from the Saints. Said breaking news, Colts owner died. Yeah, we just talked about that, Chosen. Dalton brought it up not too long ago. Picked up Cooks and trade Olave, I would be 504 hot. Yeah, that wouldn't make much sense. TJ, the Falcons, Panthers, and Bucks are losers to vote to ban the Tush push. So they voted on it. They decided they voted against it. Well, I don't know. I don't see why the Bucks will vote against it. I mean, the Bucks one of the teams that can actually stop it. They got Villa Vea, and now they got the big guy from the University of Florida, about almost 500 pounds. Like, y'all should be good. Y'all should be able to. If those two men can stop the Tush push by themselves. Me too. Let's see, but can we execute it well without someone getting hurt? Yeah, probably. I would, if you got the right offensive line, right personnel. I'm just hoping that this new strength and conditioning coach that they have, this guy who is extremely well known and admired and revered among the National Football League circles. I'm just hoping that he can come in and make this whole situation better. I hope the strength and conditioning plan gets better this season, because Lord knows, man, they had enough injuries last year to last them about 10 seasons. See, rest in heaven, Jim Irsay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, man, that's unfortunate, man. That's very, very unfortunate. That happened with Jim Irsay. Pretty sad stuff right there, man. Like I said, I mean, this is one of those guys who was, owned the on his team for a long time, man. I mean, I'm trying to look up his bio a little bit. I say, man, I'm kind of like a football historian. So a lot of these things, I mean, I follow the team as consistently as I do the Saints, but you kind of find yourself like learning and understanding like certain history about the National Football League. I do know that and I'm not just saying this. I know that sometimes we talk about when people pass away, bringing up their shortcomings, but I know he did battle with alcoholism, but to his credit, man, he turned himself around. Like he was dealing with that, and he was able to get himself back on track and was on the straight and narrow. So respect for him for that. But like I said, he owned the Indianapolis Colts since he was executive for 1984 to 1996. He was the vice president and general manager of the Indianapolis Colts from 1997 to 2025. So this shows you right here that this guy really understood the business of football. Because, like I said, what did I mention? Him, bringing in Marshall Faulk, him bringing in Peyton Manning, him bringing in Andrew Luck. Like he has done a really, really good job as a general manager and owner of the football team. Owning the team since 1997. So won that Super Bowl. I want to say it was Super Bowl back in 2006. When they beat the Chicago Bears in that Super Bowl, and was a really really good owner. He's like one of the best owners I could think of. Most owners, if they meddling, they always just kind of muddy some things up. But like credit to him, like he would always like bring in really good football minds. Like the Colts have always had like really good football coaches, like Tony Dungy. He was a really good coach. Chuck Pagano. To me, I feel like he was a really good coach. I mean, even Shane Steichen. I think that he's a talented guy. I think that they got to figure it out what Anthony Richardson can actually be. But they do a really good job at drafting players. They do a really good job at bringing in players that are cornerstone guys. Like, I mean, Dwight Freeney, Robin Mathis, right? Shouts out to Bob Sanders. I mean, and they had some dogs on the team, man. They had some dogs on the Colts team. Of course, we all know that, as far as from a Saints perspective, I mean, the one Super Bowl championship that the Saints won, they beat the Indianapolis Colts to get it, right? So, yeah, man, Jim Irsay was a really good owner and general manager. Let's see. I don't see why fans still crying over primetime games. Nobody want to see us on national TV. Hell, even some Saints don't even want to watch our own team play because we were boring, so can't expect them. Look, I just think that we can't sit up here and criticize the team and say all these things and talk about their shortcomings and think that the masses don't see what we see. To be honest with you, they'll probably see it from an even worse perspective because as a fan, you're willing to give your team the benefit of the doubt, right? You're willing to give them a chance, right? Because you care about them, you love them, you want to see them do well. But a person that doesn't have, a horse in the race. I mean, if a team bad, they're like, man, them boys stink, and they gonna throw salt in the wound. You get what I'm saying? So when I look at it, I don't think they deserve to be on TV. I don't even want to think. I know they don't deserve to be on TV. The Saints do not deserve to be on TV. There we go. The Saints don't deserve to be on TV. You know it, and I know it. National TV, like TV, okay. You know what I'm saying? NFL got money to throw around. National TV, no. Prime time, no, sir. Nobody wants to see the Saints. Drew Brees ain't walking through that smoke. He ain't running through it either. All right. Y'all remember when Drew Brees would hit the field, the flames used to go up, pyrotechnics and stuff. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? You see Drew Brees doing that little, stretch on the ground where, you know what I'm saying, he spread his leg out and stuff like that. Start like bending them hips. You know what I'm saying? Like he ain't coming out there. You know what I'm saying? Drew Brees ain't bending his hips on the sidelines like he was at first. He ain't throwing a football and then tilting his body to go through his progressions, the second and third progression. That ain't happening. All right. If Drew Brees was running through the smoke, running through the flames, then that'll be one thing. But ain't nobody sitting up here trying to watch the New Orleans Saints at this point. Now, if you got a problem with it, do something. Do something about it. Like if you don't like what I'm saying, do something about it. How about winning some football games? How about generating some level of excitement? How about getting your own fan base excited before you try to get the national sports world excited? Because other than the fact of, growing up a Saints fan, watching this team my entire life, what else do I have to stand on when it comes to the Saints in 2025? What do you have to stand on in 2025? That is the question. That's the question. I don't know. They don't deserve it, man. They don't. You know it and I know it. We need more depth on our D-line. That position scares me. It's a must. We shore up that position as soon as possible. I think they got some guys, Kai. I'm interested to see how this 3-4 are going to be able to fit guys' skill sets. Maybe some players that couldn't really find themselves in that traditional 4-3, I mean, they did a lot of things, you know what I'm saying? They played a lot of different packages in the Dennis Allen defense, but it was more of a traditional defense. So maybe this whole 3-4 thing can probably get some guys rolling. Maybe some guys can make some plays. I got to see. I love what TJ said. NFL is a business, and I believe many people and players forget it. If IBM, Target, and Amazon can let you go, so can NFL. Popcorn, yellow stripe, smile, face, orange TV shape, location, yellow teal bars. I don't know if that was like supposed to be like emojis or you actually wrote that. I don't know if that was describing the emojis that you were trying to use. Or what? I don't know. But anyway, at the end of the day, I agree. Right? The NFL is a business. It's about business. It's about revenue. It's about viewship. It's about merchandise. It's about all that. Chosen Saints fans shouldn't be tripping over primetime games. I would rather noon games or afternoon games on Sunday. Yeah, you earn the prime time. The Colts won Super Bowl 41 in 2006 versus the Bears. Thank you, Brand. I knew it was in 2006. Couldn't think of the Super Bowl number, though. Yeah, Edgerrin James. Thank you. Edgerrin James. What do you call him? What's the Joseph Adai, former LSU Tiger right there. They had some talented guys on that football team, man, running that football. They got one now, Jonathan Taylor. They've had some really talented running backs in Indy over the last 15, 20 years. I'm glad I won't be staying up late to watch Saints play. Me too. Thanksgiving 2 times against the Falcons. It's unfortunate that we don't have any primetime games, but coming off a 5-12 season, and every time we played in a primetime game last year, we got blew out. Yep. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. Let's see. We beat the Steelers on Halloween and the Cowboys on Thanksgiving in 2010. Let's see. Beating the Falcons on Thanksgiving was funny. Yeah, they beat the Falcons on Thanksgiving twice, I believe. Didn't they beat them twice on Thanksgiving, or the Saints only played them once? Let's see. Falcons lost to the Saints by a score of 20-17. Never forget that. Never forget that. Never forget that. The Saints knocked off the Falcons by the score of 2017. Never forget that. Booger McFarland was on that Colts 2016 too. Yeah, definitely sure was. What's up, y'all? Laughing my what off. Yeah, man. Shouts out to Ark, man. Yeah, man. Never forget that. I mean, but I'm thinking about back to the Chris Olave topic. I just think that Chris Olave is poised to have a really good season. I've looked at him. There's some photos of him going around practicing inside the facility. He looks bigger. He looks stronger. And maybe that's just the case. I look at Chris Olave and I know that he is a really good receiver. I just want to see him take that extra step. I just want him I just want to see if he can be that dog that he needs to be. And I really think that Chris Olave would thrive if the New Orleans Saints would get themselves a big body, big target receiver. Somebody that can demand a double team, somebody that knows how to get open, somebody that could, really cause some damage dealing with a one-on-one, man coverage. I mean, basically would just eat up the opposition. That's what I feel like the New Orleans Saints need. If they had that, I feel like Chris Olave would be, an animal. But right now, I just think that when you have all of these receivers in the room built the same way, look the same way, man, it's kind of hard, man, because none of these guys are yak receivers. Where are the yak receivers for the Saints? I mean, you got guys that can get behind the defense, but breaking tackles, stiff arming guys, fighting for extra yards. Maybe this season could be this the moment where some of these guys emerge, but I haven't seen it. John O'Barnes and I were trolling Falcon fans Tuesday night for those that missed it. Oh, no, I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that. One of those Thanksgiving games, Matt Ryan got stiff arm, I think, by Shy Tuttle. Yeah, that was Shy Tuttle. And Shy Tuttle stiff armed the mess out of that boy. That Thanksgiving game in Dallas was that Roy Williams fumble. Yeah, that was when Malcolm Jenkins ripped the ball out of his hand. If he didn't rip that ball out of his hand, the Saints would have lost that game. They would have lost that game. Malcolm Jenkins definitely made the play of the year, in my opinion. When Roy Williams was holding that ball like a loaf of bread, and Malcolm Jenkins just comes behind him and just rips the ball out of his hands and just started running the other way. He just basically took that boy lunch. And then you had Drew Brees that just went down there and just facilitated a masterful drive. I mean, a touchdown pass to Lance Moore. I'll never forget that. There's a touchdown pass and back in the end zone to Lance Moore, get the lead. That play was loud too, boy. Both teams wanted that. And I remember that because it's crazy as this sounds, man. I can remember that game. I remember that game. And the crazy thing about it was I was in Dallas. I was chilling on Thanksgiving. And ironically, a former Saint was actually at the Thanksgiving dinner with me. If you remember Mario Edwards, Mario was at the time, I think Mario was maybe like a junior or senior in high school, man. This was before he committed to Florida State. He was at the crib, man. When I was staying in Dallas, he knew he knew the family, the house that I was by at that time. But it was, yeah, man, it was crazy, man, watching that game. It was crazy watching that game, man, on TV. You had a lot of Saints fans up in that thing. A lot of Saints fans in that building, man. And when the Saints won, man, that man, everybody in that house lost their freaking mind. Everybody in their house lost their freaking mind. Says TJ, I was at my grandma's house here in Gulfport, Mississippi, watching that Saints Cowboys game in 2010. I witnessed it. Yeah, man, that was an exciting game. That was an exciting game, man. I was in Denton, Texas. I was staying in Dallas at that time. But I was in Denton that day for Thanksgiving. Never forget that. That game was exciting. We had the Cowboys number the last handful of times we played them, even in Dallas. Now, they didn't cook the Saints a couple times now. I remember that Taysom Hill, when Taysom Hill was the quarterback, I think, one of them games, and they went out there, man. They were torching the Saints. They were torching the Saints. That one, I think, Drew Brees was in the stands or whatever like that. And yeah, man, that was just. I'll be feeling bad for Drew, man. Every time, like they just need, like, for real, they just need to keep Drew Brees away from the team, right? Because every time they like, oh man, this is Drew Brees appreciation night. Man, this is number 9 night. The Saints get waxed. Like, basically just completely, like, just defecating on everything this man built. Like, at least get back. Like, let's see if Tyler Shuck, can end up channeling some Josh Allen type traits or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, before we just start asking Drew Brees to show up to the dome. All right. Look, Drew, you can come through if you want to, man. But look, ain't nothing special. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have catering in the luxury box. If you want to come by and eat a sandwich or two, it can be Jimmy John's. Like we can hook you up. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can get your people to come up in there and do your thing. But please, pretty please, stop letting Drew Brees come to the Superdome and watch the Saints get waxed. Please. Let's put, like, I don't know, man. It to me, it's almost like, man, to me, it's like if you're a football player and your girlfriend is at the game, right? Like, you ain't trying to drop no passes. You ain't trying to, you know what I'm saying? You ain't trying to miss you ain't trying to miss no passes. You ain't trying to miss no blocks. Like, that's the way it should be treated. Like, man, Drew Brees in the building. Like, we need to go out here and show up and show out. That's the way it needs to be. But, man, they just be out here, man, just getting beat to sleep. Poor Drew just have to, man, score, like, Saints down 3-4 touchdowns to 9. Halftime, ladies and gentlemen, Drew Brees, and everybody all dejected and depressed and upset. And all of a sudden, Drew Brees got to come out here to this lukewarm crowd that they've been watching their team get 2 belts put on them. And then all of a sudden, like, Drew Brees got to hype up the crowd. Like, man, come on, man. Drew Brees deserves better. Stop inviting Drew to the game until y'all get a product on the field that he can actually get down with. What's going on, TJ? I drove down to that game and loved every minute of it. Got threatened a few times as I walked from the stadium. Yeah, man, some of these fans just take that stuff way too serious. Like, Philly fans, New York fans, like, get a freaking life. Like, seriously, get a freaking life. I ain't trying to fight nobody after no football game. Hey, I ain't got paid a dime. I ain't got paid a dime. As my panic button goes off on my car. All right. Got my keys in my pocket, my panic button. Panic button. That's what we need to press every time Drew Brees in the building. Boop, boop. Panic button. Shoot. Drew Brees need a panic button. Watching the Saints get beat by 3 touchdowns. Please have some better product. Jenkins got that play, and the play against Vincent Jackson when he stopped a touchdown and the Saints had a goal line stand. I remember that too. And that was like maybe like an 80-some-odd yard run by Vincent Jackson. I ain't gonna lie, man. Vincent Jackson used to eat up the Saints. He used to eat up the Saints, man. Let's see. TJ, remember the Saints Bills Thanksgiving game? Drew Brees was there. How could you forget? I mean, they beat the brakes off the Saints. Like, it got so bad, on third down, the Saints, they needed to convert, and Buffalo fans were so loud up in there, it sounded like a Buffalo Bills game. It sounded like Orchard Park. Yeah, I remember that. The fact that this team has fallen so far since Drew retired tells you how much impact he had on his friend. I mean, that goes without saying. Drew Brees is the greatest New Orleans Saint of all time. It ain't even close. They've had some great New Orleans Saints players, but Drew Brees is the greatest New Orleans Saint of all time. And I don't like, as great as Cam Jordan is, nobody has been more impactful than Drew Brees has for the state, the team, the region. Like, nobody has affected like the Louisiana sports world like Drew Brees. Drew Brees is the most important Louisiana, like sports athlete of all time, in my opinion. Like they've had some like really important ones, but I don't feel like this hyperbole. Like I ain't talking about guys from Louisiana. I'm talking about like mean something to the state. Like you could talk about Pistol Pete Maravich. Like you could talk about guys like that, you know what I'm saying, with the New Orleans Jazz back in the day. Like, but nobody. Like you could talk about like Ricky Jackson, Willie Roaf, like great players, but nobody. Drew Brees is the greatest player to ever play in the state of Louisiana. Like it ain't even close. It ain't even close, man. Like that man meant so much to this organization. He turned, like, some of y'all hear stories from your grandma and them about the Saints. Drew Brees was just, man, I can't even really put it into words. Man, you can't really describe how terrible this football team was. How bad people, thought about this football team. How poverty stricken this team was. Like people used to be embarrassed to say they were Saints fans. They used to be embarrassed, like seriously, like man, y'all boys ain't gonna win nothing, man. Y'all boys suck. Man, people used to be embarrassed to wear Saints starter jackets. Like, man, you wearing them, man, them boys, sorry. People used to want to wear the 49ers, Cowboys, Green Bay Packers. Maybe throw a little bit of Pittsburgh Steel off in that thing. Like people weren't really, repping them Saints like this. This man changed the way people thought about Saints football, the narrative. Like some of y'all, this sound like me talking about back in the Cowboy days or something to some of y'all, because y'all don't remember it. Because everything about this football team that you can remember like vividly involves number 9, and the way that you felt when he ran out there on the field and put foots in them boys, beating down them Falcons, embarrassing the Bucks more times than not, beating up on Carolina. Like that man, like he is the most important Louisiana athlete of all time. Let's see. On NFL Network, Drew was ranked as the number 1 best free agent sign of. Absolutely. Like, you could probably throw Reggie White off in that thing too. Like I would say Reggie White. Reggie White is one. I would throw Kurt Warner up in that thing too. But when everybody thought Drew Brees was good, but nobody expected that. If the Chargers would have expected that, they wouldn't have never let Drew go. The Saints would have had Phillip Rivers. They didn't remember the local blackouts. Yeah, that's I tell people all the time. That's the reason I do broadcasting right now, because I couldn't watch the Saints on TV. I used to listen to the Saints on the radio, and I think that played a huge role in my career path as an adult. I really do. So, but yeah. My final thoughts are simple. Chris Olave deserves to be with the Saints. They shouldn't be trying to think about shipping him anywhere. Yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers did inquire about Chris Olave. That's according to a really credible source close to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shouts out to him, former Steeler player. Not who y'all think it is. We've been on the show a couple of times. But, you know what I'm saying, pretty much confirmed that. But at the end of the day, it's you can inquire about somebody, don't mean you're gonna get them. So the Browns also inquired about him, but the Saints had no interest. So unless these teams are going to really give the Saints something that's worth their while, Chris Olave is going to be with the New Orleans Saints, and they definitely need him. I expect for the New Orleans Saints to see what they have this all season. Maybe going to the training camp. Maybe seeing if some of these other wide receivers that's in free agency are going to be able to maybe get signed with the team. They can maybe add some veteran leadership inside the locker room. But yeah, Let's see, TJ, do you think Olave mentally will be different after the rumor? No, I don't. I'm more concerned about him being, where he needs to be mentally because of the concussions. Like, man, that like you getting your bell rung, getting knocked out cold, man. That's scary stuff right there. That is scary, scary, scary stuff. And I just hope the brother can be able to bounce back, man. Be able to be in the right headspace. So hopefully, like those won't affect them too much. Hopefully they can get the right helmet, what I'm saying, the right protection to be able to protect him so he can be able to finish out his career without, any hiccups. I don't want to see this brother, man, be out here, can't barely walk, and all these other things that be happening, resembling, concussion-like symptoms. I don't want that for that guy, man. I just hope that he can finish his career on his own terms and he can have a solid season, man. Not just so the Saints can have some better play offensively, but the fact that he can be in the right headspace to be able to do what he wants to do and do what he loves. That's the most important thing to me. I mean, Chris Olave, the person, not Chris Olave, the football player. But if he's okay and he's in the right headspace, that's all that matters to me. But thank y'all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Much love to each and every one of you. I want to say thank you to those that commented throughout the show in the chat. If you want, you can follow me on X at TJAYJones8. Check out Saints Talk with Timothy J. Jones every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Did an episode recently about, tonight. If you're actually watching this live, I did it earlier. Just kind of talking about Chris Olave, went into more detail about that. Talk about the quarterback situation with the New Orleans Saints and them deciding to go young. Check it out. It's on Bleacher Report. You can check it out. Saints Talk with Timothy J. Jones. Also, you can check out the audio version of the State of the Saints podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Anchor FM. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I got to say is, who dat?